George W. Bush was president. I was 19 going on 20, and I had just finished my sophomore year at USC. I was also living on the Big Island of Hawaii, and I had a job as a waitress at Bubba Gumps Shrimp Company. Hi, how are ya? And I had also met the greatest love of my life. It was the perfect time in my life to be in love. It was the perfect time to learn how to make blueberry pancakes for someone. It was the perfect time to work in the morning and surf in the afternoon with my boyfriend. It was the absolute perfect time to think that I was going to marry the love of my life, and the worst possible time to actually do so. I was 19 when I met him, and he was 26, and so many things were about to change for me. About a year and a half into my relationship with this perfect guy who looked like Eminem, and he had the taste of a sommelier, and he taught me how to be confident and feel beautiful, I was at a crossroads, and I knew I wanted to be with him, but I didn't understand that I was having a fear of commitment. And I would only recognize that that's what it was because I would have boyfriends that would be afraid of commitment. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been through that. This guy was going to marry me. And I started wishing that I'd gone and lived in New York and done more writing and seen more of the world before this wonderful man came into my life. But he was supportive through this entire process. And we decided that we'd talk about our options, and it was all very mature, and eventually we decided that a semester abroad would be actually really great for me, and my scholarship would cover it, and I would get a chance to see the world, and after that I would have an amazing time, and then come back to Hawaii, where I would settle down and have kids with him. And, or finish school and have kids with him. I would graduate before the marriage. That was sort of the trajectory. So in 2005, I went to a different country for the first time. I studied just east of central London, a block away from Mile End Tube Station. That year the city had been selected to host the 2012 Olympics. And the Olympic Park would be built right near my university. I was really miserable when I got there. It was gray, and everyone was really snobby, but I eventually learned how to go on the tube and go for an adventure, and I went to Hyde Park for the first time, and I went to Tottenham Court, and I went to Buckingham Palace, and I was starting to understand what makes a city a city. And it's not really the skyline that makes a city a city, it's not the history, it's not even the money that's there. What makes a great city are the people that live there, and the creative energy and the ambition of the people that are just walking the streets, and you see them and they see you, and you sort of are on the same trajectory, and it's a really great feeling to just be in a vibrant place. And Londoners, as much as they can't be bothered to give a shit about you, they are ambitious, and they're career driven, and they excel in the arts, and they're curious about the rest of the world. They travel. My time in London did not satisfy my wanderlust, it just exacerbated it. So obviously my relationship took a big hit. My perfect, beautiful relationship started to decay. I was experiencing this world that my boyfriend would never be able to relate to, and one of the lowest points came when I decided to cut my long, beautiful, golden brown surfer girl hair. And I got a pixie cut. I took some pictures of myself, a couple of naked ones, and I sent them through the email to him, and I called him from a payphone on a calling card the next day, and I asked him what he thought of my little e-present, and he was not just livid, he was so angry, he demanded that I grow my hair back because he was a masculine guy and he couldn't bear the thought of dating somebody who looked like a little boy. And number one, no one tells me what to do. Number two, I don't know if you've seen my figure, but I'm not the skinniest crayon in the box, but there is no mistaking me for a little boy. And I didn't care what he said. I spent like a half an hour in this payphone crying, like tears streaming down my face, my neighbors walking by, screaming at him, saying to him, I never thought that I would date anybody who cared as much about looks as you do. If all I am is just somebody to look at, then why are you with me? And it's was just like in the middle of the day, and we broke up. We broke up right then and there, but a week later he begged me to come back, and he begged me for my forgiveness, and we got back together. But I think we both knew that this fight wasn't about my hair, it was the fact that I was experiencing things that he would never be able to relate to. I was seeing a bigger world than he could possibly give me, and nothing would ever be the same for me. My whole worldview was changing, and it would keep changing. Like, my experience had changed so much that when we broke up, I went to Barcelona for a week to cool off. Like, who does that? Nobody goes to a completely different country just to cool off because it's cheap and it's easy. Like, that doesn't happen in America, but it happens in Europe, and that's not something that he could ever understand. It was the most beautiful thing for me to experience while living in Europe. I was feeling empowered to see the rest of the world, and it was horrible for being in a relationship. So when I came back to the States, like, everything was different, of course. I knew that I had seen this world that was going to be bigger than anything that he could possibly show me, and I didn't want to be a part of his world. I wanted to be a part of this bigger universe. And he resented me. His resentment for me was palpable. So when school started again at USC, I moved into an apartment in downtown Los Angeles, and I got a part-time job working at the CPK on 7th and Fig. And I would catch the dash to class, and I would meet up with my friend Kate, who was living in Hollywood, and she had started dating this filmmaker who was a really cool guy. And he was involved in this circle of other filmmakers who were also really cool, and I started meeting all of them. And I started feeling the same kind of feeling that I felt when I was in London. This energy, this ambition, this creative drive that was amongst the people that I was meeting, and I was inspired by that, and I wanted to be a part of that. And granted, London and Los Angeles are two completely different cultures and two completely different experiences, but the same drive, the same energy that you see in people walking the streets of London is here in LA, and I wanted to be a part of that. And knowing this only drove the wedge between my love and I deeper. And it started getting really mean and nasty, and finally I'd had enough. I told him that we had grown apart and this was not going to be something that was going to work out. And I knew that this was a relationship that had meant so much to me, but it was so over. It was so over that I would never even be able to speak to him again. I would never be able to know what his life was like. And even though, like, over the course of the following months, he would call me and ask for me back, or he would call me and like say little digs at me to tell me how much better his new girlfriend was than I was, I just knew that underneath all of that was this deep and personal relationship that I'd shared with this person, and it was a great love that I could have made work. But I sacrificed it because I wasn't willing to give up everything that I was going to become by living in LA for a love that didn't completely fulfill me. And as much as I miss being in love, specifically with him, I wouldn't have chosen any differently. I wanted to be a part of the energy that I felt when I came back to LA after London. I wanted to swim upstream with these fishes, and I wanted to be inspired by their talent. I was meeting my heroes, people whose books I'd read, people who I'd watched on TV, or these people became my peers and my mentors and my neighbors. And it's been a place of buried treasures, of feeling like you're no one special and then feeling like suddenly you are, and feeling like you're so close to your dreams that you could almost touch them. And once again, I'm at a crossroads. At the end of this week, I'm leaving LA probably for good. And I bought a one-way ticket to Bali, and I'm going to spend some time on Guam. And it's going to be the end of 10 years living here. And I wouldn't have changed a thing. And I'm so grateful for the time that I've spent here and the people that I've met. And I'm so grateful that I get to tell these stories to you on the same stage that Melinda Hill performs, who I've seen on TV and I admired when I was younger. And I get to perform on the same stage that Mark Maron has done comedy. And I used to stay up really late when I was a kid to turn on the TV and watch his special at midnight on Comedy Central. And my mom would never know because it was a secret thing for me. And I mean, talk about childhood heroes. But I love that I get to do these things and I can only do them in LA, but I'm willing and excited to leave because I'm not willing to settle for a love that doesn't completely fulfill me. And I don't know where I'm going, and I'm not even sure I'll find what I'm looking for. But in the end, it's worth all of the risk. Thank you.